Hello everyone, this is St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Department of Computer Science Engineering and Bachelor's of Computer Science. Now, uh, the subject that I'll be looking forward to is Principles of Software Engineering. And today the topic is Software Lifecycle Models. Software Lifecycle Model. Software Development Lifecycle Model or Software Lifecycle Model, it is basically a systematic process that is for building software that ensures the quality and correctness of the software, and it aims to produce high quality software that meets customer expectations. Now this software lifecycle model, it has various phases into it. So these can be broadly or in a generic sense can be defined as requirement analysis, feasibility study, design, coding, testing, install, deploy, and maintenance. Now we come to the first phase, that is the requirement collection and analysis part. The requirement is the first stage in the SDLC process. It is conducted by the senior team members with the help of inputs from all stakeholders and domain experts in the industry. So what these people do, the senior members, they sit with the customer and they kind of notify each and every requirement that the customer needs. So it is like this phase requires direct communication with the customer as to exactly be clear of what exactly the customer wants, right? So each and every minute detail, each and every single precise requirement is supposed to be noted, and you have to finalize the necessary timeline as to what is the time you will be needed to complete this task. The next phase is the feasibility study. Now what, once this requirement analysis is completed, so next we do is we define and document software needs, like as to what exactly will be the needs. Like it can have some economic, legal, operations, technical, and schedule kind. When all of these five categories are supposed to be taken care of, when these are the ones that are being fulfilled, so then we just kind of keep a note of it, and this is being noted into this document which is known as SRS or Software Requirement Specification. The third phase is the design phase. In the third phase, the system and software design documents are prepared as per the requirement specification document. So what was the requirement specification document? The SRS. Okay, so the document that we prepared initially at the time of when we were interacting with the customer, so that documents act as a background for the design phase, right? So and after the design phase, the output of the design phase is a TDS, that is a design document specification, right? So the first document that is prepared is the SRS, and then we get the DDS or the design document specification from the SRS, right? So what does the design approach do? It clearly defines all the architectural modules of the product along with its communication and data flow. Now this communication and data flow, both of the things has to be kept in mind. As to why? Because from one module to go to the next module, it need to have establish as to how they're going to interact with each other, because these can be interrelated, they can be interdependent. So what kind of relationship the modules share in between, and how will they be communicating, what will be the how will the data flow? So all this is being taken care of in this design phase, right? So the internal designs of these modules is also proposed. Why? So it is basically the architecture kind of a document that we do. Suppose we have to, this comes from the very basic idea as to, suppose we want to make a house. So when we want to make our house, we actually do the designing as to we go to the architect and we ask him to actually design a kind of a plan for this. So this designing phase is the same. So suppose if I am supposed to make a website or anything of that sort, so I'll be just designing as to what would be my home page, how many pages would I need, the kind of database that I would need, and then this internal architecture of each module is like that I am supposed to have, like what will be my home page consist and what are the sub tabs will consist. So this is very like this is has to be done in very detail, because any design you miss, then it is then it will get problems afterward. So right, next we come to the coding phase. Now this coding phase is actually the longest phase, I would say. Longest phase means that it would take lot of time, right? So this is the phase where in actually the entire system is being created, where the programmers, they write the code and they choose a language as to what programming language they would be following, what phase they would be, like what platform they'd be working for, the compilers, the interpreter, debuggers, everything that they will be needing is comes into this coding phase. Okay, testing. This software, once you are done with the development of a, say, a particular module, or you are done with the development of the entire kind of a software, you need to test it, right, before being deployed, because at the end of the day you don't want anything to get come into as to, you don't want to have anything, or you cannot take risk with this thing, right? Because before delivering it to the customer, it has to be tested onto your end, that it is everything that he told in the requirement is satisfied and it is correct also, right? So there's an entire team, quality assurance team, that works into this, and they continuously keep on findings, like where the software is showing any kind of a problem or whatever that it is doing, right? So what they do is that they actually they find out bugs, right? And then they tell it to the developer. They report it to the developer, and then the developer actually removes the bug, or it just it does improvement. So this is the testing phase. Next we have the installation. See, once the testing is over and there are no bugs and error, right? So this is the final deployment process. So you give a feedback, the manager, and the final release is checked, and you see that you're finally deploying it to the customer. Like your deployment means that is into the actual environment, and what is the actual thing when you're finally delivering it to the customer. Okay, next is the maintenance phase. So once the system is deployed, then the customer start using the developed using the developed system. Now this developed system may need updates and may need upgrades and need bug fixes, and it may need kind of enhancement, like if anything new is being coming onto the system, or anything like anything new app that is coming, or anything that can be added, or anything like an add-ons kind of stuff. So all this comes into the maintenance phase. Okay, now SDLC models. There are various kind of life cycle models, and they follow a series of steps which are very unique. So there are various. Some of the popular ones are waterfall, iterative, and spiral. So in this here we'll be seeing the waterfall first. Now, waterfall model, as the name suggests, this is a linear sequential life cycle model. Okay, so what does linear sequential mean? That once you arrive to phase one, then you are at one, and then from one you move to two. Then you actually cannot you cannot do any revision into the first, right? So this was a very document that was prepared in the initial phases, right? So this is what we have explained in here, that before the going to the next phase, so you have to see that the first one has been completed exactly correctly, and to the minutest detail has been done into it, because once you move to the next phase, then you cannot modify. So any phase in the development process begins only if the previous phase is complete, and the output of one phase acts as the input for the next phase. And these are the various steps into the waterfall model. So the first is the requirement analysis, then it's the system design, then implementation, then testing, deployment, and maintenance. So the sequential phases of the waterfall model are requirement gathering and analysis. Here, just as like it's a SDLC model, so the same thing, like just the difference is as to what the kind of work it is going to do. The requirement analysis phase, it will take all the requirement for the customers, right? The way we discussed into the previous SDLC model, we were discussing into our previous slides. So it will try to gather each and every single minute detail, and this is really very important in case of waterfall model, because once you go out of the requirement, you do this complete phase and you go to the designing phase, you cannot come back to the requirement phase. And if it fails into the first, if any requirement is left out, then it is left out and the entire output is wrong, right? So this is one of the most important, I would say, part into the waterfall model. So you have to cater to it each and every single minute detail. So the important, this is, it may take time, you can take n number of time, but during this, like, you have to keep this thing in mind that none of my requirement has to be missed out. Okay, then is the system defining state. And then what we do, we design the architecture of the requirement that we're supposed to do, and how we're going to work, proceed, like how we're going to take it further, right? So we'd see that how we will, how my, what will be my modules, and how will be they will be interconnected, how they will be talking to each other. So everything comes into the system design phase. The implementation phase, the implementation phase consists of the coding phase. Okay, and then you integrate all the small programs into, and make the final output of it. So implementation is your actual work that is being done. This can be said as the main operation. Then comes integration and testing. So you try to see that they are in perfect symphony with each other or not. You try to integrate them and see as to what exactly, how they are fitting into each other. You try to bring them into kind of a very cohesion kind of a system. And testing is before releasing to the customer, it has to be tested at at the company side. Deployment of the system, wherein you finally deploy it into the market. If it is a general product, you release into the market. If it is a customized product, like we discussed in our previous lecture, if it is customized, then to the particular customer it will be delivered. Maintenance is any issue that is arriving, any patch has to be fixed, any update has to be done, anything has to be done, come into the maintenance phase. Okay, now where it will be applied, what will be the application or your updating. See, every software development is different, and it requires a suitable SDLC approach to be followed based on internal and external factors. So there are these kind of situations wherein we can use waterfall model, where it can be used as, where requirements are very well documented, they are very clear, and they are very fixed. Next is the product design, like where product definition is very stable, that he knows exactly what he wants. So it has to be very clear, concise, and it has to be very precise. So technology is understood and it is not dynamic. There are no ambiguous requirement, like you do not have any confusion regarding to anything. There are ample amount of resources that are available, and also the project is short. See, in case of a very big project, you cannot trust waterfall model. So what are the advantages? There are various advantages to it, like it is very simple and easy. Like it was the first waterfall model, that SDLC model, that came into existence. It is very easily manageable. The phases are very processed and completed one at a time. It works very well for smaller projects, and where the requirements are very well understood, like very well and very precisely. There's no ambiguity into it. And clearly defined stages, well understood milestone, easy to arrange tasks, and process and results are very well documented. What are the disadvantages? See, anything that is the biggest disadvantages that I have been telling since the start of the waterfall model is that if you miss any kind of a requirement, then the entire model falls. So this has to be the main, this is one of the main disadvantage of waterfall model. So there are high amount of risk and uncertainty attached to it. It's not a good model for complex and object oriented projects. Also, it is very poor for long and ongoing projects, because you cannot take risk with long projects, right? It is not suitable for the projects where requirements are at a moderate to high risk of changing. See, so you actually moderate or high, not even small change, I could say it can withstand, it will be able to withstand, because this is entirely fails into this thing. So uncertainty cannot be dealt into the system. So, and this is the biggest advantage of it. And it is very difficult to measure progress within stages. It cannot accommodate changing requirements. I told you, like, this is the major drawback of it. Adjusting scope is again a problem. Integration is done as a big bang, like, so anything that it has to be integrated, it doesn't let you identify any technological or business bottleneck or any challenges. So you have to be very specific about each and everything that you're doing. So some of the important questions that are from this are the, like, what do you mean by SDLC, or or it may come explain the various phases and in detail. Next is waterfall model and the phases in detail, and what do you understand by linear sequential model. So we are done. In case of any query, please contact. Thank you so much.